all these things that tell us that we can be meaningful and big and special and bigger than this little human body that we're in. And that's really what I think the star card is about.
Welcome to Soror Mystica, a podcast exploring life's mysteries and magic through its symbols.
I'm Mariana Lewis, an archetypal tarotist.
And I'm astrologer Christina Farella.
And just as the Soror Mystica guided the alchemist through his holy work, we hope to be your mystic sisters in these conversations, guiding you deeper into the symbolic life. Curious to deepen your inner work via archetypal studies and Jungian psychology? Join Alyssa Polizzi on the Artemisian platform to explore the images, symbols, and psychological patterns that shape our lives. Offerings include educational articles, workshops, and discussion threads exploring alchemy, tarot, mythology, Jungian theory, and more. Join as a free subscriber or upgrade to the paid members community to access in-depth monthly classes, discounts on services, and additional resources. Listeners of Soror Mystica can join today with a 15% discount on monthly or yearly memberships, so sign up at theartemisian.com/Soror Mystica. Alyssa Polizzi is a dear friend here at Soror Mystica. She is my personal tarot reader and a scholar that both myself and Christina adore, so we highly, highly recommend that you check out the Artemisian now.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 36th episode of Soror Mystica. Today, we are going to be exploring the symbol of the star. Before we jump in, we have some announcements and some updates for you all, and hoping that this just finds you very well. But in terms of things that are going on, we'd like to let you know that this weekend, we're meeting for our next book club session. And if you haven't heard about this before, maybe it feels like it's a little bit too late to grab the book and get reading, but if you're a motivated reader, you may as well try. So we're reading When God Was a Woman by Merlin Stone, and we're going to be meeting on Sunday, May 19th at 11 a.m. PST/2 p.m. EST. So translate that to your time zones. But we'll be getting together to talk about this seminal, feminist, historical, archetypal work, and it's going to be really interesting. So hope to see you there. And for those of you in the Cloister, we're excited to meet with you guys again and see what you think of this book. So that's there. Mariana, what is going on with you right now?
So I just opened the doors to Foundations of the Tarot workshop, which is my 3-week beginner's workshop for anybody who has just started out with the cards. Maybe you just got your first deck, or you've had a deck for a little while and you're just like want to figure out how to jumpstart your understanding of it. And we're going to talk about all the foundations of tarot, how to start reading for yourself and other people if you want to. So we're going to cover things like, what to do when you're stuck with a card, how to correctly prepare your space, what sorts of questions to ask, and of course, how to read the cards with a archetypal or psycho-spiritual or depth psychological lens. So having that particular approach to it, because it's a class by me, that's my thing. But it's really, really great. And it's an excellent class for anybody who just wants to say, let me start this journey and really learn it. And my thing always with tarot and teaching it is that it's about building relationship and not about drilling memorization. And so if you approach it that way and you kind of work with the system that I've developed in learning the cards, you will learn it, I promise, 10,000 times faster than just trying to memorize it if you actually understand how to create that relationship with them and then retain that relationship. So that's starting June 9th, and it's 3 weekends, 3 weeks. And yeah, you can grab a ticket now. And the bonus that I offer with this, it's kind of an exclusive, is that you get the Archetypal Tarot Elements ebook, which is an ebook I put together breaking down all the archetypal and symbolic elements and all of the 78 cards based on a Rider-Waite-Smith system. And I do not sell that publicly. So it's a very juicy bonus because it comes free with your your ticket. So, and that's a very fat, beautiful ebook that I think is really good. So go to my website to get all the information, persephonessister.com/learning or /foundations of the tarot. Both will take you to the right place. And cool. Hope to see you there. And then you have something going on too that you want to tell us about.
Oh, yeah. So that all just sounds amazing, though. And I really want to encourage people who are on the fence about joining this foundational workshop. I don't know. I always say this whenever you're offering, your tarot classes, but it's just such a worthwhile, in my opinion,
Thank you.
investment because of your unique perspective that really does encourage a kind of fluid relationship with the cards and their meanings. And
Mm-hmm.
I say it all the time, but your perspective on tarot has just totally changed the way that I use the cards myself. So everybody should do it.
Thank
And
you. Thank
that's
you.
right now. And through the end of the week, I'm running a 30% off sale on my pre recorded classes. And so you can use the code SPRING30, it's all caps, at my Podia site, which we'll link down below. And the classes that are on offer range from straight ahead astrological kind of education, like my transits class is on sale, but a lot of my mythology classes and asteroid classes and astrological magic class are all
Oh,
on
that's
sale as
awesome.
well.
That is a
Yeah.
big fat discount. So if anybody has ever thought about taking the class, you should absolutely do it because that's such a steal.
Yeah, I don't run sales very often. I
No.
just honestly forget about the ability to do that. So I just was like,
It's we
I
may be
don't think about
businessmen,
it.
but we are not corporations.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm
It's
not
like
a good.
sales. What?
So it's very infrequent that I do this. And if you've been wanting to take one of my classes, but you haven't been able to join because of budget or timing, you can nab these classes. They're self-guided. You'll have all the materials that you need when you get into them. And I hope that if you feel called to do so, you nab that. So that's
Mm-hmm.
my update. And
Definitely do it.
that's it. Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot of classes too. You have a big range of them.
I
Yeah.
do. Yeah, I've taught a lot, and I always just leave them up on my site so that people can jump in to do self-guided classes when they want to.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that it makes sense that people like a live class because you get to kind of hang out with people in the classroom. But
Mm-hmm.
the self-guided classes are robust with 90-minute lectures, supplementary reading materials, all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you get a big fat discount, which you don't get with a live class. So
Exactly.
there you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So I think that we've, probably talked a lot about the stuff we got going on. And then we're both reading When God Was Woman. How are you liking it?
Oh, it's really
Isn't
interesting.
it
It's
cool?
it's very 70s, 80s. It just
Oh, it's
feels kind of
so
like
70s.
it feels like that very second wave feminism sort
Oh
of
my God,
vibe of
right?
like, yeah, but it's great. And so it's a classic. So I'm really happy to
Yes.
have a reason to have to focus on it. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yep, that's there. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. I just came back from a vacation and I
Hmm.
was in Turkey, and it was, there are no turkeys in Turkey. Did you know that that's what everybody asks
That's
me who
like a
knows
dad
nothing
joke.
about. I can't tell you how many people have asked me that since I've gotten back. What did you?
That's really
Are there
funny.
turkeys? Nope, there's no turkeys. Turkeys are native to the United States and North
Wow.
America, and
Weird.
they didn't even
Okay.
have turkey on the menu one time. Didn't see it one time. But I just absolutely don't know how I overlooked this. I planned this trip before I think we decided to read When God Was a Woman. And then we picked that book and I was like, oh, this will be great. I read it years ago. And so it'll be a nice little refresher. I'll kind of peek into it again. And so much of the book talks about the Hittite civilization and the Anatolian
Mhm.
civilizations and Cybele, the goddess, the
Yeah.
mother goddess. And that is all the locus of all of that is in Turkey. And I
So
was
cool.
just like there
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my God, this is what so much of the book talks about. And unfortunately, I didn't find any of the like really ancient mother goddess images that they have there. They had like a couple things that are a little bit more recent, as in like 1,000 years old and not 3,000 years old,
Mhm.
But it was still very cool to just like, I walked into a museum and they're like did you know we have all this tradition of the mother goddess here? And I was like, I did know that actually. And it like clicked and I was like, oh my God, I'm like here. This is what we're reading right now. And it was so cool. And then I got to see the Artemis of Ephesus
Yeah,
statue with
so
the
cool.
Artemis with the 1,000 breasts, which are probably bull testicles.
Mhm.
Apparently, that was like they would have these when they would sacrifice these bulls to the gods, they would hang the testicles on the gods
Oh, I
like
didn't know
neck
that.
as like a symbol of honor or
Fertility or whatever.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's why they think that they're bull testicles because that was like a just a tradition that people would do sometimes. And so,
Crazy.
but I don't know.
Crazy.
I like to think that they're breasts, but they might be both. Either way, it's about fertility.
Choose your reproductive organ.
Choose, yeah.
DIY it. Mhm.
And so that was very, very cool to see because that is a very old thing of Artemis as the mother, which you
Yeah.
don't see often either. So, um, yeah. So that was anyway. That's what I'm telling you in lieu of telling you what I'm reading because I haven't read anything. But we went to Turkey and we're both reading When God Was a Woman, and we hope to see you at the discussion because I love this book. So
Mhm.
anyway, I'm rambling. We're talking about stars today.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so we're going to talk about the star. I think that, the star is a very beloved tarot archetype, tarot
Mm-hmm.
card. It always, I think it's one of those cards that I always, if I find a new deck, I always flip through and like, you look for the high priestess and you look for like, I always look for the high priestess, the devil, the empress, and the star and
That's
death.
interesting. And
Hmm.
death.
Hmm.
I think star is a great one to go to kind of get the vibe of the deck. Yeah,
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah, so I think that we're not alone in our curiosity about that. And that is going to be our focus. But stars are more than just, the tarot archetype, the tarot card itself. So
Yeah.
I deal in stars as an astrologer.
Mhm.
And we're going to kind of open up this symbol and see what we find here. And I think it'll be really nice to settle in with a very beautiful symbol because um, everything feels very harsh and
Yeah.
heavy in the world. And
Yes.
so hopefully this can be a sort of nice, inspiring,
A bit of healing.
yeah, for
Mhm.
people to kind of sit with. So that's what's on offer today. So I'm going to go ahead and just start by reading the star entry. And I'm reading from the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Traditional Symbols, the encyclopeded illustration. Okay, I'm going to start reading from this book that is full of amazing, amazing definitions of symbols. So it says the star, the presence of a divinity, supremacy, the eternal, the undying, the highest attainment, an angelic messenger of a god, hope, as shining in the darkness, the eyes of the night. Stars are attributes of the Queen of Heaven. Oh, sorry, of all queens of heaven,
Mhm.
beautiful, who are often star crowned. The star is preeminently the symbol of Ishtar or Venus as morning and evening star. The pole star marks the pivotal point in the sky and is thus the gate of heaven at night. It is a symbol of constancy and is pointed out as such in Hindu marriage rites. In Egypt, the pharaoh was, after death, identified with the pole star. And so this goes on for quite a while. There are 5-pointed stars, there are 7-pointed stars. I know that Solomon's star is a specific one. I'm looking to see if that has something here, and I'm not seeing it, but this is a very long entry in this
Oh yeah.
book. Um, and so, yeah, stars are the drops of the blood of Uranus, which is very
Hmm.
interesting according to Hesiod, which is really fascinating. So we just kind of open up right away into this mythic territory, and it says planetary gods are often depicted with a star on the forehead or overhead in the Greco-Roman tradition. So really beautiful stuff to kind of dig in with here. And maybe we should start with like the nature symbology before turning into the sort of maybe more psychic cerebral material of the tarot.
Yeah,
Mhm. Do you
definitely.
have a favorite star that you look for when you go out at night? I know you're in Queens, but when you get out
Our
of the city.
stars. um, I because I see them so infrequently, the only constellation that I can find is Orion's belt because I
Yeah,
just
it's
not
really
used.
bright.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I look for that, and then Last year on my birthday, I was in upstate New York and I saw the Scorpio constellation, I
Mhm,
think.
mhm.
I
I'm
think
sure you did.
it was
You
visible
can.
at that time. Yeah,
Mhm.
so and I was like, "Oh my god, that's me." That was very exciting.
Yeah.
So, I guess those are the I don't have a particular favorite star.
Yeah, I think, like, when I was a kid, I grew up in Westchester, so we had stars, not a
A little
lot,
bit
but we
more.
had more stars
Mhm.
than in the city, and I would just be, like, so obsessed with going out at night. And of course, I was, like, probably supposed to be in my house in bed and stealing out to, like, look at, the stars at nighttime because there's something very comforting about the stars and the
Yeah.
vastness of them. And I remember in 5th grade, my science teacher told us that by the time we're all adults, we won't be able to see any stars in the night sky because of pollution. And I cried and I was really
They
upset.
always tell us this. I
Hmm.
remember the same thing. They told me the same thing, and I was like, "Oh my god, we're all doomed." And here we are. We are still doomed, but
We are still doomed, but there are still stars.
yeah.
And so, I think that what's interesting is that they are this kind of eternal, vision throughout the ages. Like the sky that you're seeing at night, if you read the Odyssey, Odysseus is being guided by the same stars that we see in our night sky now. And that to me is like
Yeah.
super powerful and super beautiful. And
Yeah.
that's an exciting idea. And I think that the idea of stars as divine and stars as conflated with the heavens and heavenly power is also just a very old idea. And the 7 planets were considered to be wandering stars when
Mm.
astrology was kind of first being codified in ancient Babylon. So, because they look like bright bodies, they look like really bright stars in the night sky when you see them, but they're moving amongst the constellations, which the constellations are fixed in their
Mhm.
sort of patterning. And so to remember too that ancient people saw the gods in the stars and the planets. And, we kind of have this just underlying foundation of starriness with divinity.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a good place for us to start.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, the star is representative everywhere of the numinous,
Hmm.
like the light that is celestial, and it's different than the sun and the moon. We've done those episodes too, which if you haven't listened to them, go
Hmm.
listen to them. They're really good. Where we talked about the two, luminary bodies of the sun, which is constant and dependable, and then the moon, which is cyclic, but also kind of this big orb of like silver light that we have that we know to watch for and know its patterns. And stars are the third of the kind of, in the tarot at least, we have these three cosmic entities that we see of the star, the moon, and the sun.
Hmm.
So the star is kind of the third in that trinity of these celestial luminaries that we're talking about in the tarot, at least. So I think that there's something about that, and the first of them that we see in this sequence too. So there's something about the numinosity, the holy kind of experience that we associate with them.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And the ability to follow a star to a
I have to
destination,
bring
and the
Mowgli on my lap.
ability. Hi,
Sorry,
Mowgli.
he's
For those of you
scratching.
listening, there's now a cat on camera and I'm going to be distracted.
Sorry, he's just keeps scratching me.
Oh, it's so cute. Yeah, so to follow the stars, interesting. I think also, stars have a kind of seasonal quality to them due to their, or I should say, actually, planets, which look like stars.
Hmm.
In the symbols book, the goddess Ishtar came up,
Yeah.
and she has the 7-pointed star. I'm pretty sure,
Hmm.
and in her, yes, of course, she has the 7-pointed star. And ancient people, when they observed that the planet Venus was either visible in the daytime or the nighttime or invisible because she would be quite close to the sun, they would kind of attach different moments in the Ishtar and Nana saga to where Venus was and what kind of actions were happening to their love divinity at that point in
Hmm.
time. Right. So I think that the stars cueing us into, are we on a day world journey? Are we on an underworld journey? Is
Yeah.
really compelling. And it's interesting to give, obviously them that the ability to be cyclic. There are also really interesting things that happen with stars, like there's a fixed star called Algol, which is
Yeah.
the star named for the head of the Medusa. And it's considered to be a malefic star, but we love her. And she is an eclipsing star. So the ancients believed that she was blinking and therefore malefic because she would disappear every like 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
But it's because she's an asterism. She's like three stars that orbit each other and they eclipse each other over and over and over again. And so
Oh.
it's a really crazy,
Do you think that's part of the reason they got the eye thing for Medusa?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, I
Wild.
do. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, so in astrology, there is this whole tradition of fixed stars that exists. It's a little bit, I'm not an expert in this whatsoever, but I really do like it. And it brings in this very strange sort of mythic quality to the chart and are just kind of this glorious divine piece of the night sky beyond the gods of the planets. So anyway,
Mhm.
I'm rambling about this, but yeah.
No, I'm looking for my star card in my deck
Mm.
because the idea of, here it is, the 7-pointed star of Ishtar. It's interesting how the points of the star are specific and important. So in the star card we have actually the 8-pointed star, which is I want to do more research about why exactly it's 8 points. I know I read something about it at some point that was interesting. But the 8-pointed star kind of the number 8 is one. Obviously, we have 1 plus 7 of the 17th card of the tarot.
Mm.
But then we also have this 8 being this number of the doubled quaternity, like the stability of the 4, and then we double it. So it's a very auspicious number. And then we see this number theme with stars a lot. Like the number of stars is specific. So with Ishtar, it's 7, the star card's 8. In the hermit holds a star in his lantern. That's a 6-pointed star, I'm pretty sure.
Mm.
And then something that I see a lot is like in the Marseille deck with the Empress card, she wears a crown of stars. And Mary often also in early iconography wore a crown of stars, and there's
Mhm.
always 12 stars in those crowns because they represent like the 12 signs of the zodiac
Mhm.
as like
Does the
represented as stars.
chariot also have a crown of
He's Yeah,
stars?
he's under a canopy of stars. He
Okay.
has this like canopy over him in his chariot. Um, and this is has nothing to do with anything, but I think I sent you a picture of it. But when I saw the Artemis at Ephesus, they had two of them. They're both very tall, very like life-size people. One had this like enormous crown headpiece thing. They both had the many breasts, but one had the big headpiece, and then the other one had her face was more intact, and she had a collar of the all the zodiac signs.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I thought that
Yeah.
was really interesting, and there was like kind of stars going on there too,
Mm.
because it was just interesting having her collar be all the zodiac signs, and that thing must have been like 2,000 years old. So
Yeah. That's like really amazing. Yeah. So, yeah,
wild. Yeah.
forever we have these ideas of
Hmm.
the symbols of the stars coming through and being important guiding
Hmm.
lights.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that that's sort of when we think about the way stars appear in mythology and stories, in older stories, right? In actual like Greek mythology, for example, as you were saying before, people often become stars, or there's some
Mhm.
kind of interaction with the constellations.
Mhm.
In more contemporary stories, fairy tales, certainly anything produced in the 20th century, the star is representative of some kind of destiny or destination or hope. We were talking, I was mentioning When You Wish Upon a Star, which is the classic Disney song. Um, and the idea of like uh, having something to lay our eyes upon and focus on as we think about the future and movement forward. So I think it's been a symbol that's kind of mutated a little bit. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that earlier idea of of becoming the star
Yeah.
in mythology.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So, this is the best word ever. The word for when a character is made into a constellation is called a catasterism. or
Okay.
katasterisme. Yeah, it's so, so good. Um, and so in the myths, you'll see that a lot of them end badly for the people in question, the mortals in question, usually.
Hmm.
And as a result of that, the gods who feel very guilty make them into a constellation. It's like, you know, if a mortal interacts with a divine being because the divinity is in love with them or wants to dominate them or wants them to do a task for them, usually, the mortal winds up dying a horrible death because the gods don't really care.
Hmm.
And the gods will feel moved enough to then honor, them in the stars. And so every constellation, like every major constellation is
Somebody
kind of,
who got
yeah, yeah.
rejected by a god.
The Big Dipper is Ursa Major, right? Is the bear. Is it Ino that Zeus, was obsessed with? But she got turned into a bear by Hera, I think. And then, Orion, of course, was defeated by the scorpion. He was placed into the sky by, I think, Artemis. But if you look at the sky, he's always being chased by the scorpion. The Scorpio constellation and Orion are like always, the scorpion's always pursuing him. So it's always a reminder of his story. All of them, they're all
Yeah.
just laid out there. It's very interesting. So what does that mean? I think that, is that a message about the reward of interacting with the divine or trying to do something
Hmm.
heroic or trying to meet the divine?
Yeah.
You're probably going to fail, but you will be made into a star to be remembered for eternity. Is it worth
Yeah.
it?
I think, well,
Yeah.
we is it worth it? We still kind of carry that today with this like idea of like I feel like when I was a kid, you would always hear like at the end of like a movie, like a kids movie, they'd be like, and then they died and became a star, and
Hmm.
look at the stars, and that's all your ancestors. What was that must have come from Lion King or something.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
think it
yeah.
was
I think it
Lion
is.
King.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like thought that that was real, and I was like got confused about like, but when
But
did
that's
you say that?
beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's cute. It's cute, and I think it's a really beautiful idea. But this is something that we've held on to: is the idea of our ancestors or those who have passed living among the stars or
Hmm.
being immortalized as a star. And so there is something about that in Greek mythology in particular, because that happens so often. As you said, there's something about the heroic element of them or the martyred element of them or something, there's
Right. Ariadne becomes, a constellation. I think it's Coronis, like her crown of stars becomes the constellation after she's like abandoned by Theseus
Mhm.
and Dionysus can't save her. Yeah, there's just this sort of way in which, bad things happen. But, the
Right.
Pleiades are the seven
Mhm.
sisters that are fleeing Zeus. They turn into birds and then they're turned into a constellation. So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
all there.
So in that older tradition, it's you did something worthy of being made into a constellation, or there was enough like grief or disappointment or guilt that you were made into one. And then I think in later traditions, or maybe other traditions out there, there's the idea of remembering those that we've lost. So it's a way of holding on to our dead and to our those that we grieve. And so
Hmm.
there's something about the stars in grief as
Hmm.
well. And I think that there is an element of, it's a question about the soul in that. And it, if looking at it through a very Christian kind of lens, the idea, very ancient idea, not ancient, but the old idea, if you look at like, the way that they would talk about the soul in medieval Christianity and earlier, even the soul was an entity that was attached to the body in some way that they did not understand exactly how it was attached to the body, but they knew it was. And this was part of like study of medicine was like, where do
Hmm.
we find the soul? Who is it? Like Newton or Bacon or somebody like said, oh, it must be in the pituitary gland.
Ah,
I don't
that's
know.
great.
I
I
find
don't know.
somebody in that era. Um, and so there was this idea like it's got to be somewhere. And so, they believed that when you died, the soul detached from the body and it would move through ether. which is a substance, which is basically what the air is made out of. And then it would pass into the heavens. And so the idea is, well, where does it go exactly then? Or how do we still perceive it at that point? Because it obviously goes to heaven, but what is heaven? Is heaven, especially in the older way of thinking about it, heaven was somewhere in the solar system. I love
Yes.
what Joseph Campbell says. Have you heard him in his quote where he said, if we're to believe Mary's assumption, she's flying around Jupiter
Oh my
at
God.
this point?
That's great. It's kind of bitchy.
It's so bitchy. It
It's
was so catty and great. I don't remember who he was interviewed by, but he's like, okay, because he hates literalism of any sort. And so, but I think that this is kind of where we find this idea of like, at least thinking of it in that way, like the soul goes somewhere and it goes into this huge expanse of the cosmos, and we still need to be able to see it somehow and
yeah.
locate it somehow. And the cosmos is so abundant with stars. There's so many billions of stars that it is totally conceivable that we land there and become one. And we can just exist there. Our soul exists as this body, and then we can see it, right? And then we can remember the person. So stars have absolutely become a symbol of that, and probably have been in many cultures for a long time. And today we still hold on to that idea, even though it's not canon in any religion that I know of, at least. But it's I feel like it was just such a 90s thing to be like, grandpa's a star.
That's so sad. But I know you're talking about, and I think that if we remember that the pole star was assumed to be like the gate of the heavens for a lot of cultures, that's really interesting because the pole star doesn't move, right? Although
Yeah.
other stars kind of revolve around it. And the kind of idea too of that like the Copernican model of the universe, where the planets all have their orbits around the Earth, and then at the very edge of that model of the universe is the firmament, and then beyond that is like the kind of numinous consciousness of God. And so getting into that space is, is it that impossible to believe? Because death and the soul are so remote, just as the stars are completely untouchable. Does it really seem that crazy to put the soul or the spirit of your loved one up in the sky in this beautiful
I
sort
literally told my husband the other day, I asked him if he believed in heaven, which it really enraged him because he doesn't like talking about anything that's not real in the moment. He's a Taurus. And so he's like, I don't know. And then I was like, well, I don't know. I just know that when I die, I want to be moonlight or starlight. And that's what I want for my after experience. And he was like, that's impossible.
Oh, God. Well,
well, I would love to be starlight when I pass. And I think that is a beautiful
I will grant you that. Okay. I'll make sure that happens for you.
I first want to be a tree, and then I'll be starlight, because I want to do that thing where they make your body, what is it called? Cremate you.
Yeah. And then you become,
and then you become fertilizer. That's what I want very much. So I'll be a tree. And then when all of me is completely decayed and my soul has ascended to beyond the firmament, then I will go be a star, and I'll make it happen.
When I execute your will, I'll make sure all these things happen for you.
Thank you very much.
There's a really pretty song by Mystica, and it's about like wanting when you're not here anymore, wanting to become the moon so you can shine your love down on the person who's still here. I'll send it to you. It's really pretty.
Thank you. I think it's a beautiful idea. So I think that the idea of death with the star is interesting. And
I think that's great because I just cut you off, but like when we talk about the star card, everyone is always like, it's beautiful, it's hopeful. It's like, well, what if there's something more complicated about what being a star actually is and what it does for us? So talk to me about like what's going on in the star card and the imagery there.
The star card's probably my favorite card, or maybe not now. I don't know what it is now, but it has been, at least at periods of time, very much so. And it's not just because it's 17, so my birthday is on the 17th of the month, so I have a affinity towards it. But I believe very much in this connection between the star and the tower card. And I think that they're very important to talk about together. And they tend to come up together in my readings, maybe because I like them together so much. And it was just funny. I was working with a mentee earlier today, and we did like an imaginary reading for somebody. And it was we made up this person who had taken a new job, but they weren't sure if it was the right move for them. And lo and behold, we pulled the tower and then the star, and I was like, boom, boom, boom. It happens even in our imaginations. So the tower card is the card of it's a card of man-made ideals and the lives that we construct. It is one that is very human. It's a very human card. We literally take bricks and build something of our lives. And the star card, we have this radical shift into the celestial, and we jump far away from anything that's on earth. And we go through this period of building up our lives, building up of the ego. That's what we see in the like earlier cards of the tarot. And then once we get to the Hanged Man, then we see like disintegration of the ego and the challenge and the death card. We have all these, the devil card, and all these ways of confronting the shadow and what's going on underneath the surface. And the tower is that last image of like, this is the life that you've built, and this is who you believed you were. And then when that finally falls down and we don't have that to hold on to anymore, that's when we get reinitiated into what's bigger than us, right? Into the cosmos, into the numinous experience. And so I think it's very important that it comes right after. And so we, in that star card, I'm just looking at my pretty star card. There's one of the symbols we have there. She's pouring water out of this pool and onto the ground. And so she's fertilizing the ground, basically, right? She's watering it, and she's taking waters from this, like, well of collective unconsciousness that is far bigger than us, that is like space itself, and pouring it onto an earthen, a fertile ground that we're going to hopefully receive. And there's other really interesting symbols in this card. There's some flowers, and there's an ibis. Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah. And so there's birds, and I'm not going to get into all this symbology here, but there's a lot of little things that are pointing to other very beautiful ideas about like rebirth, and there's even kind of like death themes there too. But what is interesting is that when we get to the moon card right after it, we come full circle with something that we began in the death card. The death card, death comes in and starts cutting us down, at least looking at the Rider-Waite deck. And there's there's this gate far in the background where the sun is rising behind it. And then when we get to the moon card, we're right at the gate. We're right there. And so this star card coming right before, it's that moment right before we're in this last kind of phase of being lost and wandering and about to approach the sun, which is what's through the gate. And it is the meeting of, I always say with the star card, and I pull it for a client, don't describe it to me. Please don't. Because, and I'll describe the card a little bit, and I'll be like, do you feel this in yourself? And yes. And they always want to jump in and be like, this is what it means to me. And I'm like, don't tell me. I don't think you should, because I think it always should remain unnamed and in its essence. And I think that when we try to name what the star feels like for us, we dilute it. And essentially what the star is in the tarot, I really believe, is the reacquaintance with our full potentiality, that specialness that we all believe in and we all have to hold on to, that little thing that told us when we were 7 years old, you're it. You're the thing. You're the reason. And as we grow up, we go, who the hell am I to think that it's me? And there's all these things that tell me it's not me, and I am an idiot and I fail at everything. And I'm never going to be as rich or famous or whatever as all these other people. And so we lose it. And then randomly we'll encounter a moment where we go, oh my God, I'm it. Like I can write that book. I can feel important. I can raise my kid and they are healthy and good. Like all these things that tell us that we can be meaningful and big and special and bigger than this little human body that we're in. And that's really what I think the star card is about. And that's why I always tell people, don't describe it to me. And because I don't want you to take away that the power of that experience for yourself. I want you to hold it as precious and to be reverent when you feel it. And it really is that experience with the numinous. And when we say numinous, we mean like a divine experience, an experience of our own divinity. And so the star outside of ourselves that we look at far away in the distance, it's so moving to us because we say, I think I'm the same, right? Like it's the
Mhm.
same as me in some way. And I want to follow that because I want to find that thing in myself that is like always shining. And so I think that that's, for some reason, I really do think that the star is a symbol of that more than we can connect to that experience in the sun or the moon. The
Mhm.
sun and the moon always to me feel different. Like they feel like mommy and daddy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not us. They're bigger than us, they're different than us. We love them, we can connect to them, but the star somehow feels like us.
Mhm.
And that's what's really interesting to me about that symbol, even in different cultures and just organically, naturally. We're like, there's something about me in it. I don't know why, but I keep thinking about Hercules, the cartoon.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe he sings his song in the starlight or something. I can go the distance. Na, na,
Probably.
na, na,
Yeah.
na. Yeah. So I feel like that's like what I think of. Sometimes I think of the star, this feeling of like I can go somewhere with
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
And I can take myself there and we're following it, but we're also living it at the same time. We're trying to embrace it.
I think that all of that was a very good advertisement for your class. So everyone, this is the kind of material you will be exposed to.
I do like the star card a lot, so I have a lot
No,
to say
but
about it.
it's no, no, no. It's excellent. And I think when listening to you, I was reminded of, you know, the theory that we are also made of star
Yeah.
dust, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that is really interesting in terms of what you're talking about, of having access to the star in a really personal way,
Yeah.
that we can look at it and say, yes, it's distant, it's illuminative, it's divine, it's bright, but also there's something of me still in
Yeah.
it. I think that that's really, really
Yeah.
important.
I think it's because of how many stars there are in a way, too. You know, there's something that I've always battled with a little bit, which is that Joseph Campbell says that he, in his Power of Myth series interview with Bill Moyer, he asks him, do you believe in a personal God? And Joseph Campbell says no. And so the idea of a personal God is basically a God that you can say, hi, it's me, it's Mariana. Sorry to bother you today. And the divinity will respond and be like, I know you, cool. Like he doesn't believe in that idea. He believes that we're just, everything is just cosmic, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's, I always struggled with that because I love the idea of a personal God. And I also err towards this idea of like, but is there, can there be, can that be true? In my thinking. But the star as a symbol feels like how can it not be? Because like
Mhm.
we can't think about the idea of a star and latch eyes with the star and not say that one is me, right? There's
Mhm.
something in me in that, and there's billions of them, so why not? Why can't I have my own, right? And
Yeah.
so why can't I have my own personal connection to the divine and be seen by it too and have the light shine on me? And so that, for whatever reason, when I think of stars, I think of that idea of the personal aspect of connecting
Mhm.
to the numinous or divinity.
Absolutely. And, the star is like one of the symbols of the poet. The poet is
Yeah.
someone who loves the moon and stars and is always writing about the stars. And I think that that person, a poet, is usually looking to connect with something divine, either within them, within their lover that they're addressing their writing to, or within the natural world. And so, yeah, the star has this very personal quality to it, and also this sort of hopeless depth to it at the same time. We can
Yeah.
get lost in stars. We can be starry eyed. We can
Oh, yeah.
be, and that's inspiring. And we need that after the tower.
Hmm.
After all of this sort of really intense psychic decomposition that
Yeah.
happens, we need to be able to have something else to be
Yeah.
fertilized.
I
Hmm.
really like the way I break down the cards and thinking of them in these like stages and
Hmm.
seeing the star as that first card of this like final stage of our inner development, which we're all cycling around all the time. Like we're
Hmm.
moving in this spiral around it. But it's like that final stage of like return to self that is both lowercase self and capital S
Hmm.
self, right?
Hmm.
And both of these at once. And so that's that first initiation into it. Um, And I also like the fact that we have, the nude woman there too, because she is representative somehow of that like anima mundi experience,
Mhm.
right? That soul
Mhm.
again, but the world soul. Yeah, I think that with the star, something that we can just talk about a little bit too is when we find it. One of the most famous stories that we find the star in is like the wise men
Mhm.
story, right? And then we're chasing after a star, we're following it. It is the guiding light, and then also it's connected to hope and
Mhm.
wishes. And please, for the love of God, if you take away anything from this episode, don't just think of the star as the wish fulfillment card and say, okay, make a wish and it's going to come true, because it's so much more than that. But we can lay our hopes on something outside of us, and the wise men approach, they find Christ by following the star. And I think that
Mhm.
idea of following is super, super important when we're talking about that as
Mhm.
a symbol.
Yeah, I think that if I may throw in my astrological nuance, they were following a planetary conjunction, which looked like
Boom,
a
boom.
star. And I think that it was a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that historians like have traced back to a particular epoch. It's just
That's
got this
amazing.
whole, yeah. So again, like not to take away from the starness and be like, actually it was a plant. I'm not doing that. But the idea again of like following the divine images in the
Yeah.
sky to something new, to
The
something
image of
hopeful.
the light
Yeah,
of the sky.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I also think that's like the idea of following is, when we follow something, we're being led by something that sees beyond our
Hmm.
sight. And it will lead us, of course, to exactly where we're meant to be and exactly probably where we already are. And so I think that stars can be very exciting in that way too, that we can find a willingness to be led
Hmm.
somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Mhm.
beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. All right. Do we have any other star thoughts?
I mean, always, but maybe we can wind ourselves down here and
Yeah.
hopefully we've provoked some good star moments. And, yeah, I personally have a star card pinned up like on my bedroom mirror, kind of
Good.
like, just as a little hopeful signature, because we all do need that sort of promise that we can pull from the water of the unconscious and
Hmm.
use it to fertilize something new.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, maybe meditating with that image, or just with like the particular star that's in the card looks like a good little dream symbol that people can take with them. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
And
stars
if
are.
you've had any star dreams, please send them to us. I would
Oh
love
yeah.
to do a star
Hmm.
dream very
Hmm.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, lovely. So, on that note, let's part ways with the star and we will contend with the dream.
Great. If you're enjoying this podcast, we encourage you to leave a review or learn more about how you can support us on Mighty Networks, where you can get access to some exciting exclusive offerings. Or you can connect with us by sharing a symbolic experience, whether from a dream or synchronicity, for us to explore on the show. Thank you to today's sharer, and please tell us your symbolic experience or connect with us on our website, sorormysticapodcast.com.
Are you a small business looking to reach a targeted audience of people interested in all things esoteric? If this sounds like you, Soror Mystica would love to invite you to become an ad partner. We offer a highly tailored audience of mindful, curious, depth-seeking listeners, and we would be delighted to showcase your business and offerings to new hearts and new minds. Simply fill out an advertiser application form at our website, linked in the show notes below, or navigate to sorormysticapodcast.com/advertise with us.
Hello, my lovers of tarot, astrology, and the symbolic. Would you like to go on even deeper dives into topics that are even more niche and specialized and fascinating? Perhaps you'd like to explore angels in the tarot, or beasts in your dreams, or the thresholds of astrology. This is just a sampling of the bonus episodes we have over at our Cloister. So go in the show notes and click the link and join us in even deeper conversations. We really hope to see you there.
Okay, so today's dream is one of my dreams,
Yeah.
and I have been having very intense dreams for a while now.
She's a great dreamer.
I'm a
Just
good dreamer.
a star dreamer.
I think I'm a very melodramatic dreamer.
No,
I
they're
was speaking
beautiful.
Italian in my dream last night, even though I can't do that. That's because I have anxiety about not being able to speak Italian. So
I was running from a rock monster.
I'm sorry that that happened to you. Okay, so my dream is, I would say something about rebirth, and it has a couple of different moments. So the dream starts this way. I'm in a diner in Manhattan, and I am eating lunch with my partner, and he leaves, and we part ways, but I notice this mom and little boy, and they're sitting in a booth, and the little boy is very cute and kind of like charismatic and like getting my attention. He's like 4 or 5, he's
Mhm.
just being like a silly little kid. So after I finish my meal, the scene kind of disperses, and I'm in Grand Central, and I'm walking towards a train to Westchester. I'm trying to go to my mom's house. And I get on a train without really thinking about where I'm going. And I notice that the mom and the little boy are in the seat kind of up ahead of me. And I'm like, oh, we're all going to the same place. But as the train continues, I realize I am not going in the right direction. It's like we're in a very dense forest. And there is forest where my mom lives, but this is like a magical
Yeah,
forest,
yeah.
like a Princess Mononoke forest happening around me. And as I realize that I'm going in the wrong direction, I am like, oh my gosh. And I get off the train, and the woman and the little boy also get off the train. We walk down a set of stairs, and I try to ask her for help. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm trying to figure out how to turn around. And she just vanishes and ignores me. And as I walk down the steps of this train platform, I'm in kind of a cityscape. It's almost like White Plains. It's very weird, but I'm in this sort of cityscape, and along the edge of the train station, I start to notice there are these gigantic sculptures, and
Mhm.
they look to me like moments of the nativity scene, like the stations of the nativity scene of the wise men following the star or the manger, kind of arrangement. And then as I look at them closer, I realize that it's not just the biblical characters, but also the gods and goddesses of Greco-Roman myth that I know so well are mixed in. And these statues are like larger than life. They're humongous. And I turn to my side and I say to a businessman, I'm like, these are really unusual sculptures. That's not really what they're supposed to look like. And he said, no, actually, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's perfectly fine. And so
Says the
that's the end,
businessman.
says the businessman. Yeah, he'd be like, what? But I think that for context, right? Because our dreamers, when they submit a dream, there's usually a little bit of context.
Mhm.
And the context that I can offer here is that this dream came to me at the beginning of what I think is like this really strange rebirth moment that I'm having in my
Yeah.
brain and in my heart. And I have dreams of children often. And I think that pulling out the kind of image of the little boy and then the big statues and like the train journey are the things that are the most potent to me here. And thinking a lot about like what does it mean to really be reborn in your life, or what does it mean to really end one phase and begin another, and
Yeah.
what does it take to actually be able to do that, and am I lost in the process of doing that is like a big question that I'm endlessly voice noting Mariana about. So this is what I can offer into the dream space today. So yeah, what do you
Well,
think?
I think it's so beautiful, the entry into the unconscious space through the forest. And you're usually in airplanes in
Mm-hmm.
your dreams. And so this is a different vehicle. This is a train. And so there's like this like fast movement into this space. And so I think that that's interesting because you have like this a little bit of a shift from like trying to take off and like where's it going and
Mm-hmm.
getting through airport terminals and like the messiness that we all have those dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And here you're actually going somewhere, but you're going not where you thought you were going. Of course, you're going deeper into like the unconscious, as the forests
Mm-hmm.
tend to symbolize. What do you make of the mom and the son?
It's really interesting. I don't know. So is that like an aspirational vision of
Yeah,
mine?
yeah.
Or is that just, because she's kind of unnotable, which sounds mean, but she's just kind of like a neutral dream person. But he is really, oh my God, Mowgli is so cute on
I'm
the camera
so
right now.
sorry.
No, he's so cute. He's
He's
really,
very
really cute.
annoying. For everybody who's listening now, my husband has gone away on a work trip, and has been gone a total of 7 hours. And
And the
so
cats are losing
my
their
cats are
minds.
already losing their minds and need to be near mom every second.
It's very
So they've been
cute.
alternating who's on my lap.
He was destroying your desk.
Who's destroying me. The
Yeah.
whole time you haven't seen,
Oh,
I've been pushing him down with my arm because he's been catching my fingers and trying to pull them into his mouth, because that's his first strategy, is he'll bite me to get my attention, and then he'll just leap on me. And so I prefer the cuddling stage than the
oh my
biting
God.
stage. But
So cute.
he's still biting. See, look at this. You're still
Mowgli.
look at that. Look at that full mouth
No.
around my finger.
Wow.
And
Everyone go to the YouTube and check this attack out.
this is his life. He's very sweet and then bites at the same time, and he doesn't know how to express his love
He's so cute.
healthily. Anyway, I think that the mom and son is very interesting because, yeah, you say that she's like not particularly notable. She's just kind of there. But the
The whole
son,
boys dynamic, though. Yeah.
yeah. And of course, seeing the nativity scene, then we have also, we're talking about the birth of the little boy, and the Christ child is the birth, the rebirth, the new birth, the life kind of recycled and come back. And then it kind of does fold in really beautifully to our episode today about the star,
Yeah.
and thinking about how we are led to that sense of rebirth, and the mom and the son lead you to it too in this. So I think that getting to know the mom and sitting with her might be actually a big clue to this dream, because the kid feels like, yeah, like we're seeing the little boy, right, the Christ child kind of prefigured there. And I think that it's always interesting for women, if we think of it like a Jungian way, of the animus as the child, can be really sweet. I had one of those dreams like early on in my analysis, where I just saw like a little boy sitting on a snowy mountain by himself, and it was very like weirdly moving for me. So
Yeah.
I think we can connect to that like reborn like masculine element that is pure, and that can be very like, there's a lot of love that comes through in that kind of archetypal connection to the animus. So there's that, but I'm curious about who this woman is, and she doesn't want to speak to you. She doesn't really want to look at you, but she's
Yeah.
not like mean to you. She's just kind of like ignoring you.
She's just like not interested. And I think, something else that listeners aren't privy to is that I've just been having a series of ongoing dreams where the feminine is like
Yeah,
coming
really
in
a lot of the feminine.
and either like scolding me or, asking for help or showing me something. And so it's all very interesting. And yeah, I think that I think that's a great idea to try to sort of sit with the quiet mother figure here and see what she's
Yeah.
doing. And
She seems like, whenever I see people kind of like that, who's like, she's probably similar to your age, right?
yeah.
Like she has a young kid, so she can't be more than like 45 or something like that.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
like there's a shadow sister element to that too. Whenever I see like women of a similar age to me, or some kind of similarity to me, I think that's, especially in women's dreams, I think the idea of the shadow sister is very interesting.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
then of course the statues. I remember when you first told me this dream, you described them as like Greek statues almost.
Yes. So
Mhm.
they're kind of classical in style, and they're big marble, kind of towering sort of things, and many of them kind of all in a row. So
Yeah.
interesting.
So you're mixing the classical, which is like your wheelhouse, right? You like live in that space and you speak that language of the divine very much, with a more Christian thing, but also a more like, you were raised Catholic, as we were both
Mhm.
were. So there's more of this kind of contemporary or personal element
Yeah.
to it. That's interesting.
Yeah, it reminded me of the Stations of the Cross, little sculptures that would be in my church growing up, like lining the walls of the church that we would go to. I
Did
don't
you
know
have
if
to
you
walk
had.
it on Good Friday?
Yeah, there would be little ceremonies around it, and looking at them, and religious school, and like observing them. And I always thought that I because I always like art. I was like, oh, these are cool, kind of cool, even though it's gruesome.
Well, yeah, but that's interesting because the Stations of the Cross and does feel like that lead to the resurrection and not the
Oh my
birth of
God, so
Christ.
smart. You're so smart.
Yeah,
See,
so it's a different ending of the story.
I
You're seeing
totally
the
didn't think about
stations,
that.
yeah, Stations of the Cross to the birth.
Yeah, love that. I think that that's really interesting. And then like though mixing in the Greco like gods who don't really care about rebirth. They're just kind of there
Yeah,
for like their their own divine time. So
shits and
I think
giggles.
yeah, like it's interesting that there's this blending of them. And I think it's probably just a reflection of my own relationship with divinity that's coming
Yeah, well, yeah,
through.
I like the blending of it, but I also think it's like specific. It's very
Mhm,
interesting how specific it is. That it's like let's take this style that belongs to the pagan gods, the
mhm,
multiple gods, and then kind of put in this like the mythology of the Christ child is like the singular self born, right?
mhm,
The singular God born. So there is something very specific about that crossover of the multiple and the singular.
mhm, mhm. Oh, I love that too. Yeah, so I think that, for those who are listening and thinking about their own dreams, like, and we should really do a dream focused episode because we both really care about
You say that
dreams.
every single episode.
Hey, I believe it. So I'll
And
see you
I
next
think that
time
we
in our
should.
dream episode.
And then we should. And we should you every episode you're like, "We should do this." And I'm like, "Yeah." And then we don't do it. And then you're like, "Next episode, we should do it." I'm like, "Yeah."
Well,
And then
we're going to do it
we forget to
now.
do it.
Okay.
We will do
So
it.
that's what's
We're
going to
gonna do it.
happen. Um, And I can't wait. So yeah, thinking about like the strategies because dreams can be such a jumble. Like this dream has like three discrete parts to it.
Uh-huh.
It's not really beginning, middle, and end, but it's like three phases of something of engagement with these characters, and they feel very ephemeral, but also very real. And so thinking about the symbols that you want to pull out and kind of sit with, I think is a good first step instead of being like, whoa, that
Yep.
was a weird dream. I don't know what that means. Chased by a rock monster. I don't understand.
I'm not gonna figure that one out.
Yeah, that's
That's
I
okay.
in my dream last night I was in Florence and I was buying a silver mermaid sculpture and a silver seashell with a pearl in it. And then I went up to the counter and I realized that I didn't have my wallet and I had to
Ugh.
apologize. And then I had to leave and go find my wallet and I was worried.
That's still a better dream than
Chased by a
my
rock monster.
chased by a rock monster. I don't know what in the world was going on. Anyway, so I think that this is a really good one to keep exploring around
Mhm.
like who's that woman? Why is she not paying attention to you or why is she ignoring you? What is she really? Who is she really? And then also thinking about I think that's particularly interesting the resurrection versus the birth.
Yeah.
Right? The death and the coming back after death as an adult person and then the rebirth and like it being fresh and born again. So I think that's pretty.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's
You're
great.
welcome.
Thank you everyone for listening and share your dreams with us and tune into our dream episode coming soon. So
Yeah,
we'll
it
see you
will.
there.
I promise it will. Okay. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us in our conversation today.
Please consider supporting the podcast by leaving a review and following Soror Mystica wherever you listen.
You can also become a more active supporter and a member of the Soror Mystica community by joining us on our Mighty Networks platform.
If you have a symbolic experience that you'd like to share with us for the podcast, you can tell us all about it at sorormysticapodcast.com.
The music for this podcast is written and performed by me, Mariana Lewis, with special thanks to Stefan Lewis. You can connect with both Christina and myself on Instagram and get to know our work by clicking on the links in the show notes.
As the alchemical motto goes, as above, so below, as within, so without.
May this ancient wisdom continue to guide you deeper.
Until next time, take good care.